Hello, and welcome to the Scientista podcast, where you know that women and science rule. This podcast is all about supporting powerful women who lead with their brains. I'm one of your hosts, behavioral scientist Dr. Shata Chakraborty.
And I'm former Assistant Secretary of State, Monica Medina. The Scientista podcast brings you conversations with leaders, change makers, and cultural figures sharing how they've turned facts, data, and evidence into real world impact. So let's dive in. Today's kind of a special episode. We wanted to spend time, Shata and I, just together talking about Scientista and our vision for it, looking back at a great 2025, our first year, and then looking forward to what we hope to do with this organization and this podcast in the future. Shata, just you and me today. Really fun.
Yeah, we haven't actually done this, I realize. I think we've talked about it so much. And, behind the scenes, we're constantly coming up with ideas for the future and relating that back to how we all started. But we've never actually shared any of that with our audience. So I think this is so timely and so special to do this.
Yeah, and so personal. So let's dive in. Let's start, Shata, with your origin story, which I think is fascinating. You have a really diverse background. You've come a long way from where your parents began to where you are today. So tell us about how you got your start, and how did that lead you to this place where you thought of Scientista and wanted to bring it to the world. So tell us about that.
Oh, thanks for asking that, Monica. Yeah, I love to reflect at the end of the year on kind of how we got to the point where we're at now, where we have thousands of downloads and listeners from all over the world. So thank you to all of you that are into what we're talking about and are showing us love and support and leaving us those reviews. And it really all just started with this idea of connecting girls and women and helping create a network of support for the moments that we inevitably will be struggling. And I found myself struggling. That's really where the whole idea for Scientista came from. After Kamala Harris lost the presidential election and being part of her campaign, it was really devastating for me personally. It was
Me
devastating for
too.
me
Oh my
professionally. I
gosh.
know for you,
Yeah.
Monica. Monica, you were the one who brought me into the campaign, and your career has spanned so many administrations. And actually, let me ask you, what was that like for you, leaving
It's
the Biden administration and supporting the Harris administration?
it was
Potential Harris
tough.
administration.
It was tough to see it come to an end the way it did, obviously. It was challenging to give up a job that I really loved, but, I thought I was going to do something that really needed to be done, and it didn't turn out the way we planned, which is something of a theme through all of our Scientista podcast episodes. But really, when you take the through line from all three administrations that I've served in, it's been a fascinating way to be a public servant, to get to know America in a really fascinating way, all kinds of parts of America, from creating marine parks to helping fishermen be able to succeed in fishing at a time when fish stocks are declining, to satellites, to weather forecasts, to our defense. I mean, I've had a really varied career. So the through line really is public service and wanting to make America and the public stronger through that public service. I've learned a lot from you, Shanta, because of your background in social science. And tell us about that and how that turned you into a broadcaster.
Yeah. Well, I think all of the points you just made has allowed for the incredible content that we've been able to think through and ultimately curate and share with our listeners, right? The spectrum of work you've done across your decades long career is really relevant to every single day decisions that women make for their families, that communities make for building resilience against so many different risks that we face in the world, ranging from pandemics to climate change. And so these are all the issues that we cover, and we cover through conversations with incredible women and our male allies. And we're bringing our own respective experience to the podcast. So, Monica, thank you for the decades of work
Oh,
and insights that you brought. So, for me, to answer your question, that's the behavioral science, right? And I started my career as an academic, and I was just fascinated by how humans make decisions and ultimately how they make irrational decisions. And that's for humans across the world, regardless of race or gender or culture. We are intrinsically inclined to overreact, actually, to certain issues that maybe don't warrant that, but we're designed to overreact, like to a plane crash, because
right.
it's so
Or
catastrophic.
a hurricane or
Right. But then we underreact to things that are actually really serious. And so I found
like
that really
climate
interesting.
change.
like
as
climate
a
change.
kind of a big issue, a global issue.
Exactly. And so for me, I love talking about current issues and bringing up, bringing in experts from across so many different industries and across the public sector, across the private sector, and just gaining their insights into the real risks that we're facing. And then the behavioral scientist in me loves to compare that to the actual public perception. So you'll get a lot of that through the show, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Your insights on that are tremendous. And they really do help, I think, tell people about how to both tell stories and how effective that can be, but also how to think through the sort of second and third tier effects on people, not
Right.
just on whatever it
Exactly.
is that the policy is about. So, whether it was vaccines and the conversations we've had about health or about gender and how to react at this moment. And that's certainly what drove me to want to do this podcast in particular, feeling like women really needed to find their voice and find allies in men. And that's what I love about this. It's not just about women for women, it is a lot about women, but it's also about allies who believe in women and who are willing to support women and lift them up, particularly in the sciences.
So that's what I wanted to get into with you, Monica, is, the reason we started this podcast and the reason I believe that you were attracted to it as I was because the woman who deserved the job of President Kamala Harris, because of her resume, didn't get the job. And ultimately, we wanted to use the Scientista organization and podcast in particular to tell the stories of women, the ones who overcame those challenges, ultimately got the role, and the different barriers and they faced along the way. And we know this happens way too often. So, what can we do as scientistas to reduce those barriers so the women who deserve the jobs get the jobs?
Yes.
And so,
Yes.
for me,
So
my
important.
question to you, Monica, is how do you feel the podcast is contributing to that vision?
I think that it helps women to hear women and their allies talk about it specifically, directly. I think it's been fascinating at the events that we've sponsored as Scientista to appreciate, to really hear from our audience and some of our favorite people how much hearing other people feeling the same things that they're feeling really helps lift everyone up at this moment when we're all feeling a bit beaten down by, kind of the manosphere, for lack of a better way to describe it. I think it's
Sure.
wonderful for us to appreciate the togetherness that this kind of an organization can create, the community that it can create, and the way that it helps people just see that they're not alone. And that's a
Totally.
theme that we've gotten also through some of the podcasts, but also through the events that we've sponsored. And those were your
Yeah.
ideas, Shutta, so I just love them. They're so much fun. I hope we can get a lot more of our podcast listeners to an event sometime in 2026.
Was totally our ideas, but I will take credit for some of the food that we had there because
Great food.
we had a good friend of mine who will be involved in these events going forward, and we will extend invitations to our scientistas listening to join us for these because you'll see us popping up all over the world, but definitely in the United States. And we will have hopefully some very creative treats for everyone, including bun. For those of you who know this flavor, it's an Indian flavor
So good.
flavored candy in magenta because that's our color. Okay, Monica, let's get back to the podcast. So, who was your favorite guest?
Gosh, I had so many, but I think Astro Teller was really fascinating. And again, an ally of women. He told this fantastic story about his mother being a really important influence in his life. She too was a scientist. Both his parents were scientists, as were his grandparents, I believe. Anyway, the story he told about how she inspired him and how she was actually one of the most published scientists, her studies got more republication, more citations in other people's science, and nobody realized it was her because she only used her first initial. I loved that story that he told, and I loved just the wonder of some of the work that they're doing at Google X. So anyway, I thought he was just an amazing guest and really fun listen. How about you? Who
Yeah,
was your favorite?
I'm excited to share my favorite. And for listeners, Astro Teller's grandfather was Edward Teller, the physicist known as the father of the hydrogen bomb and represented in the movie Oppenheimer. So that is like a cool fun fact about him as one of our guests. My favorite guest was, and it's hard to pick because we had so many
You
incredible,
did.
incredible contributors this year. And we have even more exciting ones coming up for next year. And I'm just buying time now because I'm trying to choose which guest to share. Juliet Kayyem, I think I'm going to say. And the reason for that is because this is a woman who is on the faculty at
Harvard.
Harvard's Kennedy School. She's a prominent American homeland security expert. You'll see her on CNN all the time. What I love most about her is she is just straight talk, no nonsense, really speaking as a woman, as a mother, as an academic, and talking about how to reduce risks in a world that seems increasingly scary and vulnerable. And the candor, the honesty in which she spoke to us and generally speaks to the public through various media outlets is just so direct and thoughtful. And it makes you feel, you know, like you're being told the truth and there's something you can do about it.
Yeah.
So it gives
It
you that
empowers
feeling.
you. It
It
empowers you
empowers.
in a way.
She has a great way
Yeah.
of
She's a
communicating.
wonderful educator. I've sat through some of her classes and she just, I mean, her students love her. But on top of that, I think audiences who watch CNN really appreciate exactly what you said, kind of that very direct way and the advice that she gives and the way she can break down even the most complex security issues so that people understand the best way that they can deal with some of these things as they happen. And, we're still seeing active shooters and, all kinds of disasters that just seem like they're kind of pervading life these days. So I loved her podcast. I thought that episode was great.
That unfortunate weekend where the news was all about Bondi Beach in Australia and Brown University in the United States, Juliet was on screen in our
Yeah.
home as that trusted communicator explaining the seriousness of the issue, but what we can do to protect ourselves, our families, our children. And I think it's that real talk from women to women that are tuning in because ultimately we know statistically it's women who protect their families and their homes. They're the decision makers of households. So we need more voices like Juliet's, and that's what through Scientista we are hoping to do is to really amplify really smart, no nonsense, straight talk women who lead with science, who lead with data, who lead with evidence that ultimately allows women and families and communities to feel more secure, more protected because we're leading with science
Yep.
first. All right. That was
Absolutely.
my favorite episode.
That is the essence of Scientista, in fact, to try to push back on a lot of the disinformation. But there are lots of ways that we want to do it. So let's talk about Scientista as an organization, because we've never really talked about more than just the podcast on the podcast. So, Shanta, tell us, what did you think about when you conceived of this idea of what Scientista could be? Tell us sort of all of the things that you hope to someday build in this organization.
Yeah, I thought I was ambitious and then I met you. And then you took it to like a whole nother level, which is so exciting. That's exactly the kind of energy we need. So with Scientista, the plan for next year is to really look at how we can influence positively women in the United States and around the world. And we're going to do this through not just the podcast, right? Because if you're listening to this, you know all about the podcast. We want you to also engage with us and be actively involved in our Scientista Fellowship. This is going to be where we highlight women who are mid career that are moving research, that are using facts and evidence, and are uncovering the next contribution to some field of science and to some field that is going to better impact the quality of life for humans all over the world and to be sustainable in the process while moving us ahead and progressing us to better society. We are going to highlight the women that are working in this space through the Scientista Fellowship, and we're super excited about rolling that out for our audiences. The next one is the Scientista Academic Partnership, where we are going to show up on campuses around the country, around the world, and really be a counterpoint to some of the more polarizing ideas that might be out there because Scientista is all about inclusivity and all about uplifting women and creating a system and a future that is just, that is equitable, that is truly entrenched in fairness. Imagine that world. That is something Scientista is going to usher in through academic partnership at university campuses around the country. And then finally, the fourth piece of this is the House of Scientistas. So that is where we physically show up, and you will find us everywhere from the World Economic Forum to South by Southwest to Climate Weeks. There is going to be nowhere that doesn't have a presence. And that is where we want you to come and introduce yourself if you can, and we will create opportunities to join us virtually as well. But these are all the ways that Scientista will show up and all the opportunities for you to engage with us. So please stay tuned on all of this. And Monica, I know you have a bigger picture than even all of this. So please share that with our
Well, I
audience.
think you've hit it on the head. We need to be in important places where these conversations are happening, showing up, bringing our scientistas to those places. We need to help mentor some in their mid career, and we want to help young scientistas get started. So that's where the university partnerships and the chapters, I hope we'll start chapters, one in every state at an anchor university throughout 2026 so that we can grow a network of people who want to do the same thing and give women a chance to lead organizations in their communities that partner with us or that become part of our Scientista community. Maybe it'll latch onto a science organization at a university, or maybe it will be at a company with young women trying to work their way up in a tech or in a science based company. I think there's so much potential to create the kind of network of women advocates, women themselves and their allies to build up this community really based in science and evidence. And again, as you said, to be a counterpoint to some of the others that are out there that may be only thinking about women and women's role in society in a very limited way. And I think we want to open that up, include everyone from moms who are staying home and are trying to navigate the world of vaccines and health for their kids and food, to women who are very career oriented and really want to be the next ones to get to Mars or have an AI breakthrough or whatever it is in the future that, will propel society forward, but in a sustainable way. So I think we have so much potential with Scientista and we just want to build it up, but we need this audience to help us. We really need your hands and heart sort of helping us by reaching out to your friends, your colleagues, thinking about who of you might want to be one of those chapter leaders in a company or at a university, who might want to help us plan a pop-up someplace that you think we should be. So this is our moment really to ask you, Scientista listeners, to come and join us in this quest, in this journey to create something bigger that will really lift up all of us.
Yes, please sign up for our newsletter via Substack and share the podcast. This is where you will get the most up to date updates from Monica and myself as we roll these programs out. Leave us your feedback, give us your ideas. We are building something and we need your help. This is all hands
On deck.
on approach.
Yeah, all hands
On
on
deck. That's
deck.
what I'm trying to say.
This is all hands on deck. And again, we love men who want to help us build this network that lifts up women, particularly women in STEM and science, but women who lead with science. It's not just about scientists. It's about leading with science, facts, data, things that will ground our society in reality, not in some sort of fictional world that we want to go back to or something. We want to move forward.
We want to move forward in something that is just and equitable. And isn't
Isn't
that
that
exciting?
exciting?
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
We haven't done that
Imagine
yet.
that.
Okay, so we always ask our podcast guests to end with some advice for our listeners. So, based on this many, many episodes that we've released, and we hope that listeners will go back and listen to some of the ones we're recommending or the ones that they haven't heard yet that are in the
In the queue.
queue. Please go back and listen. What advice really resonated with you that
I'm
you
trying to
heard?
remember how many of our podcast guests gave this advice, but many of them did. They said when they hit those stumbling blocks in their career, one of the things that helped them was to go back and think about who's their community and to really find their community. When you have a setback, what you really need is people around you who can help you navigate the next steps. And they happen to everyone. That's the most sort of obvious thing to anyone who's been in the working world or trying to be a working mom for as long as I've been. You just know you're going to hit those roadblocks or stumbling blocks. And so find people who help you feel like you're part of something bigger and who will give you, that support you need at those moments when things don't go the way you planned. How about you?
And yeah, I mean, and also that's the point of Scientista, right? Plug in because we want to create that community where you have a soft landing inevitably when you will need it because we know challenges will pop up for you in your life and your career trajectory and having a network of scientistas that you know are going to be there for you just a tap away. That is our goal ultimately. That's what we're looking forward to really creating with this network. And the person I remember saying the advice you remembered, Monica, is to Cora Jones,
Yes.
the chief scientist for the NRDC. But many others on our podcast have said exactly the same thing. So I love that we pulled that out. The other one I want to share is I want to attribute this to Bill Nye the Science Guy. I know he's said it, and I believe he said it on the episode that he recorded with us, but also others have said this in their own way. But I remember him saying was, there is no one ever in the history of the world who's successful that we would objectively say is successful that wakes up on any particular day in their life and says, "Oh wow, I'm successful," and it just happened.
Eureka.
I mean, I remember, and I know you do too, Monica. It just there's moments where we just feel like we're just never going to get there. Whatever goals we've set for ourselves, they just seem so far away, and then there's setbacks along the way, and there's so many moments where you're just like, "This is this ever going to happen for me? How much more do I have to grind and work?" And I feel like giving it all we can say to that is that feeling is transient, it will pass, and there is nothing that happens overnight. Success is a product of consistency and the ability to overcome the
Yep.
inevitable barriers that will
And,
come your way. And then after many decades of that and be like, "Oh, look at what
thinking
I
about it,
accomplished."
Astro Teller, back to my one of my favorite guests, said failure is an essential part of success, which I think is a really great way to turn around, what you think is a failure and oh my gosh, everything's falling apart. And actually, it's really the best way to make progress. So I love that.
Yeah.
I
Google
love
X
that.
His organization, Google X, they have like a hall of failures where they showcase their failures as a reminder to keep going and to the ultimate success, right? That won't be in that hall. It's that counterintuitive approach that actually results in some incredible
Yes,
moonshots. That's the
absolutely.
name of what they're trying to do.
Absolutely. Well, so tell us one quick thing that you're looking forward to in 2026, Shata. I'm excited about the new year.
I'm really excited about the new year. I'm really looking forward to Scientista showing up as House of Scientista at South by Southwest. We launched in at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas in 2025. This year, so we are going to come back for our second year of Scientista at South by Southwest, and we're really excited to share some of those plans early in the new year. So please keep a lookout and learn more
I'm
about what's to
excited
come.
about teaching in the next semester at Columbia. I'll have 2 classes there. Oh gosh, I hope I don't get too, I don't know, overwhelmed by all that teaching, but I love being with students and I'm hoping that that campus at Columbia will be our first Scientista chapter and hopefully they'll help us grow to other universities really quickly and scale up as fast as we possibly can. So that's what I'm looking forward to in 2026.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk
Thank
to me,
you, Shutta,
Monica.
for having
And
this brilliant idea. You're marketing genius, thinking the name Scientista. Every time I say it to people, they go, that's brilliant. And I do love it. I think it really is a great way to think about the work and what we need to do.
your name got
Yeah,
trademark
so it
registered this
really
year.
is ours. And we're excited to share it with even more people in 2026.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to the Scientista podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, please help others to discover it. Of course, we've said this numerous times in this particular podcast. Please share it widely. You can find it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Check out our Substack. We really appreciate your listening and checking in with us and all your support. Please do give us that feedback. We really need it to make Scientista even better in 2026. You can always find us at scientista.world for more stories, updates, and ways to get involved.